Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Super Game Brothers, our weekly board game and video game podcast. My name is David, and I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Twitch's very own Player 4, Devin. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Just getting over a stupid illness.
Yeah, you've been kind of down and out for like a week.
I've been MIA. I've received a lot of messages saying, okay, what's going on with you? I'm like, I swear I'm not leaving. I'm just dying, coughing my lungs out.
Yeah. Sent you money, sent you flowers. One person sent a coffin. Yeah, all the good stuff. Well, cool. I hope that passes soon. I hate being sick. I haven't been like incredibly sick in a long time. I think I threw up for the first time in like 15 years, just like 6 months ago. And have you thrown up recently?
It's been a minute, but it's terrible.
Wow, I was surprised at how like brutal that is on your body. Like your whole body like
oh yeah, your stomach
clenches and convulses. I mean, I guess it probably would take a lot of force to like get all of that out. But I thought I was being like possessed by a demon.
You maybe were.
Curse words. But it came out. It came out with such force. It like shot out my nose as well. I was like drowning in the stuff. Ugh. It was grody. And I was like, wow. I see now why for the last 15 years I have tried very hard not to throw up and basically just hold it down. But that day, I don't know what it was. The ocean was mad that day, my friends. Seinfeld reference for everyone. But yeah, that was nuts. I hate being sick.
Being sick's the worst. It's like you already have everything in life to deal with, and then there's this monster of a thing that's just constantly on your mind and destroying your body alongside normal life.
Yeah.
For typically like 3 to 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, and it just sucks the whole time.
Yeah, especially like yours seems like it was some sort of like lung bronchitis, whatever kind of thing. Yeah. And that just seems to like stick around. You'll have a cough forever. It seems like maybe you had COVID-21.
Yeah, maybe. I'm limiting my breathing. If I breathe in too deep or breathe out too much, I just start coughing. So
nice. And by doing that, you're gonna pass out halfway through the episode.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be muting my mic multiple times so you don't hear me cough.
Okay, cool. Well, what are you doing to heal, Devin? How do you get over such a sickness?
I got electrolytes in this bottle.
Me too.
I think in the last 2 days I slept for 15 hours, and then I slept last night from about 4 to 2:30. So that's 10 and a half. So what are we at? Roughly 25 hours in 2 days.
Nice.
I got so much energy.
Really? Do you feel like refreshed after you sleep that long?
I feel pretty awake right now, yes. But I was trying to work out earlier, and I was like, ugh, this isn't working that well. But I haven't been eating enough, and so.
Yeah. I feel like whenever I get to sleep some extra amount of hours, I feel weird when I wake up. Like my body thinks I was supposed to be in a coma. So like, why am I awake?
Oh yeah.
But all right, cool. So lots of sleep. Awesome. Well, seems like you're almost over it. We'll be able to tell by how many mute actions you take, how many times you bump that microphone. I think that'll give us a good indication. Last week was 4th of July, Devin. Did you do anything crazy? Anything fun for America's birthday?
I'm having a hard time remembering.
You were sick during it, probably, so probably not.
Yeah, no, not really. Just watched a bunch of horror movies, like I like to do. Yep, saw The Watchers. I saw In a Violent Nature. Pretty sure I watched some others that weren't as good. Watch
while
Kung
we're on
Fu
the movies
Panda.
thing, Lacey and I watched Brick a couple nights ago.
Ooh, is it your type of show?
I liked the vibe of it, but they like really leaned hard into like the, what would you call that? Like the vocabulary and the jargon of those like high school drug dealers. So half the time we were really struggling to like understand what they were saying, and they had weird nicknames for everybody too. And I was like, who were they talking about? So it was a little. I felt like I was too old for it. Like it was a little tricky to follow,
That's
or maybe
funny.
just because I've never dealt drugs. You know, I was having a hard time. Like, what does blow mean? You know, so I don't know, but it was pretty fun. I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Did I say his name right? I think that's his name.
I think so.
I like him a lot. He was very young in that.
Yeah,
You know,
and he does pretty well.
That movie was, what was it, 2005 or something? It was, no, five. Well, when did Inception come out? 2011. So it was like 6 years before that. So yeah, I don't know. We thought it was okay. We didn't love it, but I do like that kind of like vibe of trying to figure out what happened. It was just kind of odd enough that we were confused most of the time.
Well, you've still got Under the Silver Lake, and I saw the TV Glow.
Yeah, we do need to watch those. I saw the TV Glow. I need to remember that one because I was only looking up the other two. Cool. Well, for the 4th of July, I didn't do too much. My wife had plans. She went to this big concert in Utah. They do a big 4th of July concert every year. It's called the Stadium of Fire. And they have some, they do kind of like a show, and I think it's broadcast to like the soldiers overseas and stuff like that. It's like a pretty cool show. It's in the Lavelle Edwards Stadium at Brigham Young University in Provo. And the stadium's huge. It has like 65,000 seats is like how many people it can fit. It's not completely full because they block off like 1/8 of it for like the fireworks, and that's where like the stage is for the performers. They have a different like act come every year. Last year when we went, we took the kids, and it was Journey, which was really fun to go to. This year was the Jonas Brothers, which was a little bit less my jam, but a lot more my wife's jam. She loves the Jonas Brothers. So she went to that with her sisters and her mom. They paid a lot of money and sat really close, which I think they had a really good time. But there was quite an incident there this year. I don't know if everyone that is not in Utah saw, but they had a firework mishap. I said that weird, but mishap. One of the firework displays at the beginning of the show, before the Jonas Brothers came out or anything, was supposed to just shoot up some rockets up when these like 5 fighter jets fly past the stadium. And then I think a few people like jump out of one of the jets and like paraglide down to the field. So it's like a few things right in a row, boom, boom, boom. But yeah, one of the sets of fireworks, instead of shooting up, it shot down at the crowd. And there are some crazy videos online of people getting like pegged in the face. I think 3 or 4 people went to the hospital. I think they're okay, like nobody died or anything, but I think a few pretty gruesome injuries from big fireworks. And they did pause the show. My wife said it was pretty creepy because they everyone's cheering, right? Like, yay, fireworks, yay, America. And just, you know, everyone said that exactly. And then the people in those sections that kind of got hit were like screaming, like, we need help and stuff, but nobody knew because everyone else is screaming, yay, America, yay, fireworks. And so it was like 5 minutes later when they have this guy come out and he's supposed to do like this really like calm, like, I don't even remember. It's like a salute to the troops or something where he gives a tiny little quiet speech. And then like when everyone got quiet to listen to him, then you could hear everyone screaming like they need help and stuff. So they had to pause then. A little gruesome. Took a few people by ambulance to the emergency room, and then they did like pause the show for like 40 minutes. So they postponed it a bit just to make sure that everything else was on the up and up before they continued. But my wife did get to see her beloved Jonas Brothers after all. All is not lost. So, people in the crowd, next time, dodge the freaking fireworks so that, she doesn't have to miss 40 minutes of the show.
Right. Yeah.
It's your fault.
It's very rare to have firework malfunctions. I feel like that's very strange.
Yeah, especially for like professional grade ones that are like, they probably spend like $500,000 or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number, but because they do so many fireworks and they're professionally set up and like launched by computers and stuff. So yeah, really weird. I don't know if one of the like little projectiles sets like had somehow inside the big unit like tilted and was pointed sideways instead. I don't know. Because I feel like firework accidents are pretty common for like the crazy people that are building smoke bombs in the street. But yeah, for a professional thing like that, I feel like it's way less common. Have you seen, I guess, last thing about fireworks? That was a sad thing, obviously. I hope everybody that got hit with the fireworks is okay. I don't really mean it's your fault. I like sarcasm. Don't kill me. Have you seen, I've been seeing also these like reels and videos on TikTok of x-rays from the emergency room. And it's like a doctor giving like saying, these are the kinds of things I see at the urgent care or the emergency room on the 4th of July. And it's just like little kids' hands, like completely like blown up and shredded from like playing with fireworks wrong. Man, they're gruesome. Even though they're just x-rays, there's no blood or skin or anything. You can just tell like, oh, that looks like a spider, but it's a hand that's exploded. And ugh.
Weird. I've never seen that.
You haven't? Oh man, there were a lot of them going around. I'll send you one and you can look at it while you're watching one of your horror movies and it'll add to your vibe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Ooh, speaking of horror movies, Longlegs comes out very soon.
It does, man, and it's still getting rave reviews. I saw a new trailer yesterday, like a really creepy moment. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I want to see it really bad. Yeah, does it come out this Friday, you said?
I want to say it said the 12th, which would be this Friday, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. Well, we'll have to go see it. Maybe we could do a Longlegs review. I don't know. We could at least talk about it for a minute. Yeah, that'd be fun. Nicolas Cage is some creepy dude. He's a fun guy though. Yeah, all right. Well, I think that's everything on my mind here at the beginning of the show. Anything else going on, Devin, besides your deathbed stuff?
Nope, just cut my hair off, cut my facial hair off. Prepping for a little beach trip.
Yeah. Yep, we're going up to Bear Lake. Just for like a day. A quick one.
Truly.
Did you shave all your hair off? Or just the sides? Oh, okay. I was going to say, I was like, wow, that's pretty baller.
I almost did, actually.
Wow. I don't blame you. Cutting hair is very frustrating, and you're like, this would just be easier if I just buzz it.
Oh, think of how simple it would be to every week, just once a week, just bzz everything off. It's quick. You just shower it off, you're done. I don't have to pay anyone. Yeah, very tempting.
Start wearing like a Heisenberg hat.
Oh, yeah.
Like Walter White. Bald people do have some cool, like, as the youth say today, they got that cool, like, bald man riz.
Ah, yeah.
I'm sure all the kids are walking around talking about bald man riz, but
guaranteed.
Yeah. I do agree. I think about it sometimes. I'm like, this would probably be easier. My hairline's not great anymore, anyways.
Hey, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. We gotta see. We've got a lot of people who are already doing it. We look pretty good bald. You gotta do it. I'm too down for this.
I feel like I need to somehow be able to know what my skull looks like. Because I'm nervous that I'll shave it off and everyone will be like, whoa, you look like a Mudokon. Or something weird. I just don't know. Because some people have weird skulls. But if you have like a nice round skull, then you're fine.
Yeah, when I buzzed all mine off, everyone said, oh, you have a good shaped head. I was like, oh, thank goodness. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to get a little lucky with that, I think. Or have brain surgery. One of those two things will help.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is our weekly Super Game Brothers podcast. We like talking about games, so we do every single week. We play a lot of board games and a lot of video games. And yeah, I think that we're kind of unique in that way, that I don't think there are a lot of podcasts or YouTube channels that cover both. But hopefully we do them both the justice they deserve. But I think we do a pretty good job. If make sure to check us out on Patreon as well. That is how we keep the lights on. This really bright light shining in my face and the really bright light shining in Devin's face. They stay on when people join Patreon, so really appreciate that. That's patreon.com/supergamebrothers. You can get extra episodes of the show where we might play through a game together, or just one of us plays through something, and you'll get at least a month's early access to those videos. You can also write into the show listener questions. You can get all of our podcast episodes at least 3 days early. We do a monthly Q&A. You can play games with us on Board Game Arena. You can get your name in the credits. Man, that's a lot of cool perks I just said. So check us out over there. Even if you don't know what Patreon is, if you can just follow us over there for free, and then you never even have to really be on Patreon again if you don't want to. Even if you just sign up for the 3-day early tier, you can connect it right to your Spotify, and it'll just spit those episodes right to your Spotify 3 days early. Never have to go back. Never have to go to Patreon. You're like, what is a pay? Why should I go to Rion? You don't have to. So, anyways, check us out over there. That really helps us. And yeah, you're probably watching this on YouTube, but if not, check out our YouTube channel and TikTok and Instagram. Share our stuff if you don't mind. That helps us to meet new friends. All right, all of that out of the way. We have a few different segments to our show. We usually start with the News Mini Nuke. In the News Mini Nuke, we talk about kind of smaller news items in the board game and video game industries. That might be like new game trailers or announcements, the games that are free to subscription services this week/month, and any new games that came out this week/month. So, hopping right into the News Mini Nuke. Not a lot right now, I guess, just kind of as an introduction. We're in this weird space, and I was trying to think what we should call this episode, and we're kind of like, we just had like fake E3 with like Nintendo's presentation and Xboxes, and Sony had a little thing that wasn't very good, and like the Summer Game Fest. And then in board games, we just had like Origins Fair, and I keep putting my hand in front of the autofocus and like freaking out my light, but so all these things just happened, and then we're in kind of like a lull, a valley, and then there's going to be like another big mountain peak at Gamescom in August, and I think that Gen Con for board games is coming up, I think August 1st as well. Then you got Spiel Fair in Essen, Germany. That's the biggest board gaming convention in the world. And after Gamescom, there's Tokyo Game Show in video games, and then you got the Game Awards in December. It's just hard. There's too many things. It's just like up and down all the time. We're kind of in a down in the valley of the shadow of death of no news. But there's still a few fun things to talk about, so we'll do that. That was a long-winded way of saying there's not a ton of news this week, but there are some fun things. So first up, Sony announced, I think a couple of them were already kind of known quantities, but they at least showed a couple of screenshots and trailers and updates on a couple of PlayStation VR 2 games. First one is called Metro Awakening. It's a game in the Metro series, which I think has 3 games so far. It's kind of in like Russia, I believe. At least the fiction is set in Russia. I think it was based on a book series where it's like a post-nuclear kind of like Fallout situation, and everyone has decided to live like underground in the subway like tunnels, in the metro tunnels. I think that's why it's called Metro, because that's where they can be safe from the radiation and safe from the weird radiated creature monsters. yeah, just a couple screenshots there, but that could be really fun. It looks like here on this screenshot, you got your two, very common in VR games, you got your two hands out. One's like holding something important like a watch or a flamethrower, and the other one's got your gun. Could be a good time. Graphics look pretty good as well, at least in the screenshot. The next one is a game from a VR developer that makes really great stuff. And this game is called Frenzies. I thought it looked a little not really for David, but this company has made Synapse and Fract, I think was the name of the other one. So they're like kind of experts in VR, especially like fast-paced VR. So I think people are excited for this one, even if it looks kind of odd. I don't know. I kind of like the weird like art style. The article I read said everyone looks like they're wearing onesies, and they do. They look like they're wearing big onesies, but that could be
fun.
How
much more difficult do you think it would be to make a game in VR than just a regular game?
I think you have to be like willing to break new ground a little bit, because in like on a regular flat game, there's thousands and thousands of games that have been made before, and lots of great tools. Like you can use Unreal Engine or Unity and stuff, and you've kind of got like all of this out of the box kind of stuff that's like, this is how a first person shooter should feel. But in VR, there's a lot more things to think about. Like, okay, we usually have to have the frame rate be at least like 120 frames per second, or else the player will get sick. So you have to deal with motion sickness. Like, do we blur the edges to help with motion sickness? And then like the movement, do we put the movement on the analog stick? Do we have the movement tied to your like hand controllers? So I don't know. I feel like you have to be a little, just kind of like a trailblazer in figuring out ways to make the game fun and not make your audience sick as well. So I think there's a little bit of that. But beyond those things, it's probably not incredibly different. I wouldn't imagine. You're still like dealing with physics engines and art and code, but just some like new things that aren't as well established, I would say. I have no idea. I've never made a video game, but that's just kind of from my very base level understanding, what I kind of have gleaned from that. Anyways, if you have a PlayStation VR 2, those games look like they could be pretty fun. I would really like to get one of these days, especially now that if I do get like a beefy PC one day, I could connect it to that and play Half-Life and anything on Steam on there too. They're just expensive, so I'm going to wait a while to see if the price goes down. It's like a really good headset, like has really nice, like I think even like better specs than like the MetaQuest 3 and like some of the most high-end VR headsets. So I think the technology is like really solid, but it hasn't performed super well because there aren't like a ton of like big huge games on it. I think there are a lot of smaller games. Even these two that are shown here, like Frenzies, it's kind of like a more smaller like multiplayer kind of game. That Metro one is kind of a bigger deal, but I don't think it's even being made by the main team that makes Metro. I may be wrong there, but you don't see like The Last of Us Part 3 isn't going to be on PlayStation VR 2, right? And Sucker Punch isn't going to make Ghost of Tsushima 2 on it either. So it's a little tricky if like the company that makes it doesn't believe in it enough to put their best games on it in some like cool way. I don't know. It's kind of a weird dilemma that they're in. Chicken and the egg a little bit. But anyways, I'd really like to get one day. I have the first one, and I think it's very fun. And we're actually going to talk about that at the end of the show. Foreshadowing, everybody. All right, next up, we've got the games that are free to subscription services this month. We talk about new ones almost every week. It's crazy how many games like rotate in and out of these different services. Sony has announced the PlayStation Plus games for Extra and Premium, and they should be available. I think that's the wrong link, Devin. Can you go to the next one, actually? Well, I guess this is a good reminder. If you haven't added Borderlands 3, Among Us, and NHL 24 to your PlayStation library, do that. They're the Essentials games that have been live since July 2nd. All right, then on July 16th, these are the games coming to Extra and Premium. On the Extra tier, the game Devin really loves, Remnant 2 is kind of the headliner. It's a really awesome, kind of like Souls-like shooter game where you're dodging and rolling against bosses. Pretty tough, but you use guns mostly. But you can do some crazy builds and like really farm like end game stuff as well. I think, Devin, I know I can't talk about that game as much as you can because I think you've beaten it multiple times. But that's definitely one to try if you like first-person shooters. It's not even first-person. Don't say that. If you like third-person shooters, good action games that are fun to play in a group, Remnant's really awesome. Anything to add?
That's one of the only games that's ever introduced as many secrets as a Souls game has.
Yeah, and I would say they even go like more overboard with it. Some of them are
it's
ridiculous.
Crazy.
I don't know.
Some of it's exhausting, to be honest. Like, yeah. you said this dialogue to this bug lady. Well, you need to go back and say this dialogue in your next playthrough during the blood moon, and then you'll get access to this new area. And then I need you to stand on this exact point during this time and to get this new ring. It's like,
wow,
huh?
That is intense.
What do you mean? But yeah, I've got like 300 hours in that game, and which isn't that many.
That's a lot,
but that game is so good. Holy cow!
Yeah, so definitely check that one out. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough either. I haven't finished the second one, but the first one we've played through a couple times and we loved that. So I think Remnant's awesome. All right, next up, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. I don't know a lot about Crisis Core, but if you're wanting something else Final Fantasy related, there's that for you. Next is Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous Enhanced Edition. I don't even know what this is, Devin. What does that say? It's a new epic RPG from the creators of the critically acclaimed Pathfinder Kingmaker. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's some RPG, probably a CRPG, I would imagine. If you like that kind of game, check that one out. Next up is Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord, and I think this is a game where you play kind of on your horse. I don't know a ton about it either, but it says here, huge real-time battles and sieges using an extensive command system and an intuitive skill-based directional combat system. Kind of reminds me of, there was that other game that was like kind of medieval combat. It wasn't on horses though. And now I can't remember what it's called. But that's the vibe it gives me. Next up are two games in the same series, and I think that the company that makes them, or the person, I'm not sure. I think it's a company. It's called Grasshopper Games or Grasshopper. And this is No More Heroes 3 and Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes. I haven't played these, but I know a lot of people really love them. So if you have wanted to try that series, there's a couple of them there. I don't know if that is all of them. If like Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes includes 1 and 2. Yeah, you'd have to do a little research there. But if you want to play as Travis Touchdown, which is the main character's name, I believe, then there are those for you. Next up, Jackbox Party Pack 9. I think the Jackbox games are a really fun time. I've only played like 1, 2, and 3 and a couple games from 4, I think. So I don't even know what they're doing on Jackbox 9. But I feel like
they got to be getting creative.
Yeah, I would think so. But they do good stuff, so I trust them. I'll probably try that one, to be honest. It looks like it says game support up to 10 players and 10,000, what's that say? 10,000 audience members joining in the fun. 10,000, that's not enough for Devin to play it then. His stream audience is a little bigger than that. So.
Yeah, imagine.
Next up is a game called Deadcraft, where you play as a dude that's half zombie, and you're trying to... it's a zombie survival action game, and I think you're just trying to kill all the zombies, even though you are half zombie? So are you killing your own kind? Those are probably the tough kinds of difficult questions that you have to answer in Deadcraft. And last is Steep, which is, I think, like an open world snowboarding and skiing game. Yeah, it says here they also have wingsuits and paragliders. So basically anything that involves a steep mountain. Probably that's why the name is Steep. You can do that in that game. All right, and then in Premium, there's I think 4 games here. First one is Job Simulator on the PlayStation VR 2. I know a lot of people really like that game. It's kind of like a funny like intro to VR. I think that is a really well loved one. So that's a cool add in my opinion. And then there are 3 classic games here. The first one and the last one I'd never heard of. It's called Summoner, is the first one, on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. It originally came out on the PlayStation 2 as this dude standing with a sword in front of, I'm not even sure what that is, Devin, a giant bull, but the bull is standing on its hind legs holding a spear. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in Summoner, but I've never played it. If you played Summoner, then cool. Your PlayStation 2 bull game is coming back. Next up is Ratchet & Clank Size Matters from the PlayStation Portable. I haven't played this one, but I've played quite a few Ratchet games. I can't imagine that this PlayStation Portable one would be like as good as some of the others, but I don't know. Been wrong before, I guess. And then last, I don't even know how to pronounce this game, Jeanne d'Arc. Another PlayStation Portable game. Again, I had never heard of this one, but this version has up-rendering, rewind, quick save, and custom video filters. If you want to play that. All right, that is all of the games that are on PlayStation Plus, starting on the 16th, which I think is probably next Tuesday. Is that right? What's today? Today is the 10th, 6th, yeah, Tuesday. So play all of those until they rotate out of the PlayStation Plus collection. All right, last week we talked about the games that are in Game Pass at the first half of July, so we're not going to hit on them again. Just wanted to give a brief shout out again to Dungeons of Hinterberg, which drops on the 18th. And other than that, the ones that haven't come out yet are Neon White and Tchia are tomorrow. And then Flock and Magical Delicacy are on the 16th. And then, yeah, Dungeons of Hinterberg, I think, is the coolest looking one of those by far on the 18th. So check those out. And there should be some others. Journey to the Savage Planet came out on the 3rd. Awesome game. Play that one too. All right, one game on the Epic Game Store this week. And I thought the art style is really cool. I don't know if I would love playing it because it's got some like turn-based battles, but it kind of looked like a puzzle game in a way. It's called Floppy Knights. And yeah, it looks like you have these kind of things on your arm that look like a Pip-Boy. You put some floppy disks in them. And I don't know if you then are like playing those tactical battle fights on that Pip-Boy device, but lots of floppy disks, cool art. And it looks like you kind of build like a deck of cards as well. A lot going on there, but I thought the art style is cool, and so I wanted to give it an extra shout out here. So add that one to your Epic Game Store library, totally for free, on Thursday the 11th, which was a few days ago when you're listening to this. So add it now. All right, that is all for the new games to subscription services. This last week there were no new video games that came out. At least no like big notable ones. Again, we're kind of in a valley of news between like, you know, the big kind of summer beats. So I'm sure there will be some next week. I think that Nintendo game that's all of the remixes of the NES games with like the speed running kind of a vibe to it. I think that comes out next week. So there will be some stuff in the coming weeks, but no new video games this week. There are a few board games coming out in the month of July though. Again, board game release dates are all a little crazy. They like to release them at these conferences that we talked about, and then different stores get them at different times because it's shipping a physical product So it can be a little up and down. But these are the ones that are listed as a July release date that I wanted to cover. And I don't know anything about them. So I'm not as well prepared as normal. Just we're going to look at the pictures. And Devin, if you go back to kind of the main page for each game, then we can see at least like some of the main details, like how many people it plays there at the top, how long it takes to play, the age group. So first up is a game called Cities from Devir. I really like Devir games lately. Sands, The White Castle, Bamboo. This game looks like it's much, much simpler than those three games that I just said. But it was designed by Steve Finn and Phil Walker Harding, who are incredibly, especially Phil Walker Harding. He's kind of the new Reiner Knizia. He makes like a bajillion games. I think this one has gotten some good buzz. Artwork's really cool. Click on some of those other pictures, Devin, just so we can see what like the pieces inside look like. But it looks like you're kind of building these skyscrapers on kind of a grid, trying to build the best city. Different color buildings that have different heights of like 1, 2, or 3 tall. 1, 2, or 3 of whatever measurement you want it to be. They're 1, 2, or 3 meters tall. The box is humongous. Not really. They're like an inch. But anyway, Cities looks pretty good. I think it said 20 to 30 minutes, 10 plus. The complexity level is a 1.8. So a very simple game, but has some cool looking pieces in that box. And I know a lot of people have liked it that have played it. So I wanted to give that one a shout out. Next up is an expansion to a game I really like. I actually already have this expansion here in my room. Did an unboxing for it on Gaming Top Down. It's only a card expansion, so it was like a 3-minute video, but this is the Alpine expansion to Forest Shuffle, which is a really good card game. In this card game, you're playing down trees, and then the different cards that are in the deck are usually split in half. They'll either be split in half vertically or horizontally, and then you can put those animals or like plant life under, to the right, to the left, or on top of those trees, and you're trying to like combo cards together to get a lot of points. It's a really fun card game. The coolest system in the game, in my opinion, is to play a card down. You can see like the golden eagle right there in the top left corner. It has a cost of 1 card. So to play a card, you generally have to discard some number of cards from your hand to play them. And when you discard a card from your hand, it goes to this middle row between the players. And so the things that you discard, the next player can pick up. So you have to be very careful about what you discard. Very popular game last year, so I imagine this will be a pretty big hit as far as an expansion goes. Very small box. I think it's like 50 cards or something. All right, next up, very big game, kind of an expensive one. I think people that backed it on Kickstarter got it a couple of months ago, but it's supposed to be coming to retail this month. This is Slay the Spire, the board game, and I think you can play it solo, but a lot of people have said it's kind of best at, I think even there on Board Game Geek it says best at 2. The playing time is a little wild. It probably depends on the number of players. This is 30 to 150 minutes, and the weight is almost a 3 out of 5, so it's a little bit complex. I've watched a few videos, and people have been very impressed at how well they were able to adapt the video game into like a fun, cohesive board game. And they do have to like Slay the Spire does like a crap ton of math, like the video game does, because you can like, it's a deck builder, so you're getting these cards that like combo together off of other cards, and so by doing like an action, I might do like 1,000 damage because of like how broken of a build I've been able to create. And so they definitely had to strip some of that down so that you don't have to have a calculator and do like I don't know, calculus to figure out if you beat the boss or whatever. But I've heard really good things about it. I think it is $100 though. The pieces look really cool, lots of cards, and I think it comes with sleeves in the box because the idea is that you can upgrade your cards, and so like an upgraded version will either go in front of, I think in front of like the older version in the sleeve, so you're like upgrading your deck and adding new cards to your deck. Cool system. I don't know. I think that for one like this though, I'll probably just stick to the to the video game since it does such a good job, but wanted to give it a shout out. Okay, next is a game called Pampero, and has a cool cover with some windmills. The art's by Ian O'Toole, who does some of the best art in the industry. And I don't know a lot about this game, but the pieces looked very cool. I kind of have I'm a sucker for cool pieces in a board game, especially if like the pieces help you play, and like help explain the rules. Cool player boards. There's a lot going on in this one. It looks like there's quite a bit of.
It showed a complexity level of 4.
Yeah, looks pretty. That's pretty intense.
Or almost 4.
Yeah. I only have a couple games that are close. I have one game that's over 4, and a couple that are like right at 4. So this is a pretty complicated game. I'm guessing about like harnessing energy from the wind and getting points from it. Probably that's generally what happens. If you've been looking forward to that one, it also said July release date. Next up is a game called Middle Ages. Again, don't know much about this one, but the artwork I thought looked pretty cool, and looks like a much simpler game. Complexity level's about a 2, plays 2 to 5 players in half an hour. And yeah, I really like that kind of hand-drawn, old-looking art, kind of like what are those glass windows called? I feel like I said 3/4 of the word, and I can't remember the last quarter. Stained glass window kind of look. But yeah, it looks like you're just kind of building out a little castle, and there's some fun horse meeples and some cool pieces. So hopefully that is a good game as well. Next up is Weirdwood Manor, and I think this is one that people have been pretty excited about. It's a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. It's a bit complex and long, plays in about 2 hours, and the complexity scale is about 3.5-ish. And yeah, I think the art is kind of fun. It looks like kind of gives me Stranger Things vibes a little bit, or Goonies. You're a bunch of little kids, like, looks like trying to survive in this manor and fight monsters. Cool acrylic pieces. I'm very hit or miss with like a dungeon crawling game where you're just fighting monsters and rolling dice, but if it does it well, it can be fun. All right, next up is a game I actually already have. I got this one in January because I did back this one on Kickstarter, but I think it's finally coming to retail this month. It's called From the Moon, from a French company that I don't know how to pronounce their name. It's La Butte des Jeux, I think is how they say it. Look at me, I'm a Frenchman.
Well done.
And it was designed by Johannes Guppy, and who's a French designer that I really like his games. He had a co-designer on there named Gilles Lesfargues. I didn't say that right, but it's a cool game. You're basically on the moon, and you're trying to I mean, a lot of these games kind of boil down to the same thing. Get the most points by taking resources from the moon. You move your rovers, and each rover can hold 3 different specialists in the rovers. And so you can build your rover with a different configuration than the other players. And then you're putting out like science buildings, and you have to manage your energy, and you're trying to contribute to these 3, what are they called? Generation ships that are going to be taking off from the moon and going to different planets because Earth is gone, and it's a lot easier to launch a spaceship from the moon. Well, Earth is uninhabitable, and launching a ship from Earth's gravity is much more difficult than from the moon's. And so that's kind of the history with that game. I really like that bottom section that has those battery pieces because it has this, it's a kind of like a triple layered slot. So you can see all the way through it to the table. And as your energy gets better, you put these little battery pieces in to show like how much you have. And then to keep track of how much you currently have on top of that, you put this little wooden piece that slots in these little notches. So it's kind of like 3 layers deep in there. Cool pieces, fun game. I've only gotten it played a couple of times, so I need to play it some more. But if you've been looking out for that one, it should be out this month. couple more games here. This one's called The Gang, and it's from Cosmos. And just reading the description and coming from Cosmos, it immediately reminded me of The Crew, which is probably Cosmos' like most famous game from a few years ago. The Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game where you can't talk, but you're trying to solve 50 scenarios playing a trick-taking game. In The Gang, you're doing something similar, but you're playing with poker hands instead of trick-taking. And so you have to like bet on how your poker hand is going to rank compared to the other people you're playing with, and you're all trying to win together. So you're trying to work together, but I'm assuming there's limited communication like in The Crew. And so you might trade cards or whatever to make sure that your hand is in the correct like strength level comparative to the other players. That one's got a bit of hype. I think it's going to be a big deal at the next convention. I don't think I get David game so much. Again, cooperative games, I don't know. I haven't found a cooperative game that's like super my jam yet, but maybe I will one day. Very silly looking cover of a game. This is a bear holding a guitar, and that guitar isn't just any guitar. It's if we're judging it by the name of the game, it's a xylotar, because it's a xylophone guitar being played by a polar bear. And I think it's just a card game where you have to like keep your cards in numerical order. I don't know if it's even supposed to be very good. I don't know much about it, but I know that there are a few reviewers online who have had a good time with it. So I just wanted to give it a shout out. It looks like the cards are like very thin, kind of interesting. But anyways, I do love a good card game that's like cards with numbers on them. But it's got to be rock solid because there's a lot of competition in that genre for sure. Then last up is another one that I've been very excited for. Finally comes out this month. I didn't back this one on Kickstarter either, but I probably should have. And it's an expansion to one of my favorite games. This is Honey Buzz Fall Flavors. And yeah, it just has a bunch of new pieces and cards. I don't even know like what the main crux of it is. I've been trying to stay kind of blind to it so that trying to stay kind of blind to most games so that I don't just buy too many, but it looks like it does have a new board, kind of a new market board, but it looks like it maybe just replaces the one that was in the game to start with. There's some new pumpkin resource, it looks like, some big chunky pumpkin pieces. Hopefully they're as fun to squish as the nectar and honey pieces in Honey Buzz, because those are pretty great. That company, Elf Creek Games, their components, even in their like base level games, are amazing. So I hope it's really solid. That is Honey Buzz Fall Flavors. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of games that come out every month, so we can't cover all of them, but these were the ones that I thought looked kind of intriguing enough to talk about this week. Out of those ones, Devin, what's your pick of the week based on no knowledge but the cover?
I'm going to go with 2 picks, and I'm going to go Honey Buzz Fall Flavors. I hope the pieces, like you said, are fun to play with. Love the aesthetic. Yeah. And then Weirdwood Manor, even though you called it a dungeon crawler, it looked cool to me. It's kind of horror, kind of weird.
Yeah, and it might not be. I don't know a lot about it, but that's kind of the vibe I got from looking at it. Lots of dice with swords on them and moving around a manor trying to survive. But yeah, very cool aesthetic for sure. All right, well, that is it for the news mini nuke this week. So next up, we're going to be talking about the video games that we've been playing. Devin, I thought I'd let you start. Since you've been sick, I don't even know if there is anything in this category for you.
Yeah, this is going to be short and sweet. I'm still doing the Elden Ring DLC, which I can't recommend enough. Fantastic. I'm at the very end of it. So I'll be finishing that on Monday. The only other game that I played recently, because we noticed that it was free on PlayStation Premium or Plus or Extra or whatever it was on.
Essential.
Essentially, the fourth category was Borderlands 3. Dabbled through about 2/3 of that campaign, probably.
Oh, wow. That's quite a bit.
Just beelined it. We didn't do any side missions. It was just beeline, build our characters the best that we can with what we're given. And man, that game's got a cool upgrade system. It really does. I was telling you earlier, but I came across a grenade and it said, hey, this grenade, when it damages enemies, drops a ton of money. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And you share money in co-op.
Mm-hmm.
And so we boosted all of my grenade stats so I could carry a ton of them and just go around and just, I mean, we got probably 20 times the amount of money most players have at this point through the campaign. And so the game's great. It introduced a funny way to cheese it. And I'm sure there's a ton more builds. I've played through it a couple times now, but Borderlands 3 is honestly fantastic. And I'm excited if they ever make a 4th.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. That's their biggest franchise, I believe, over there at Gearbox. And the Borderlands movie's coming out this year, so I imagine they're going to want to, like, if the movie hits, they're going to want to have a game pretty quick after that.
Yeah, cool. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to play that game on Essential. Everyone add that to your libraries. Second reminder there. For me, video games this week, I played 2. First, I continued my play of the Entropy Center, which is a very Portal-like game, but man, very fun. In my first playthrough segment a week or 2 ago, I think I did the first 5 worlds. No, world isn't the right word, but the first 5 like floors of this that has like 8 puzzles in each floor or something. And I was like, man, these are too easy. And I thought I was getting close to the end of the game because the elevator like only showed like 7 floors. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess this game isn't going to be like quite up to snuff that I wanted it to be. But this second segment, I played about an hour and a half here, I think. Man, it got a lot better. It got much more difficult, introduced some cool new things. Kind of like Portal, there's a lot of like cubes you're moving around and like jump pads and things like that, but different than Portal, you're not shooting portals that you go through. Your gun can rewind items through time, kind of similar to like Tenet, the movie. And yeah, it was really fun. The couple new items from this last one were a bridge cube. So a cube, wherever you set it down, it makes kind of like the bridge kind of reminds me of like a Halo bridge, kind of like a light bridge that you can walk on. But you can only walk on it if that bridge is like, or if the cube is sitting and like stationary. So you can't just like walk on it while you're holding the cube or anything. And yeah, I really recommend this game. I think it's really fun. I'm pretty sure it was free on PlayStation Plus. I don't know if it's still on Extra or if it was on Essential a couple of months ago. I'd very much recommend it. I think it's very pretty. You're playing on the moon in this space station where kind of the story of this game is you volunteered, I think. I'm not sure about that part yet, but you're on the space station and their goal is to gather enough of this entropy kind of energy so that when something catastrophic happens to Earth, like a meteor hits Earth or something, they can rewind the Earth up to like 5 years. And then after they rewind the Earth with this entropy power, then they send like some messages down to whoever they're sending them to. President Biden. He's answering the phone. He's saying, what's the problem? And they're like, the Earth's going to blow up. And he's like, all right, let me call someone else to deal with this. And yeah, anyways, they send a message to Earth, and then Earth can figure out how to avoid that cataclysm. But kind of the crux of the game is you wake up much like Portal, and you're the only one left in this station for whatever reason. And if you like look out the window, the Earth is like in pieces, like on fire. And so it's always in the backdrop. There's like these big glass kind of walls. There was one a second ago in this playthrough, but hopefully a segment that you're showing on the screen. Hopefully it'll show it again. So it's kind of cool. You got this backdrop of like, okay, I need to get this done so I can save the Earth that's exploded in the background by rewinding it. But I'm the last person in this kind of facility left. Very much, I mean, just kind of copies Portal to a T in that way. But I think it does it really well. You're, instead of like GLaDOS talking to you through like the speaker system like she does in Portal. Your gun, your entropy gun, has an artificial intelligence in it called Aria, or is that your name? Astra. I think the AI's name is Astra and yours is Aria. I get them mixed up because they're both like the same name almost. But anyways, very fun puzzle game. I really recommend it. It's not amazing yet, but this segment of the game I was like, okay, we're getting into the more difficult stuff. Some of these were very tricky, but I was still able to find a solution, and I like that. That's a tough balance because they could just make it like almost impossible, but then you wouldn't have fun. This one like makes you feel smart because you're like, I think I know what I need to do. The tricky part in this one is since you're reversing things, you might need like a brick to be on this button and then be on that button, and then like this bridge brick, for example, then I need it to be sitting in a very certain spot so that the bridge that it projects will shoot out where I need it to. And so I need to put that cube in those 3 places in reverse order so that then when I get through like the first door, I can shoot my entropy gun back at it and reverse it back to the second button and then reverse it back to like the bridge place. So it kind of breaks your brain a little bit and like how you're thinking about where you need to put things because you have to think in reverse. I think that was even like their marketing beat with this game. It was like, have fun thinking in reverse or something. But yeah, really like it. I think it's really fun. We'll see how, hopefully it closes with a bang, just like Portal and Portal 2 both do. They close very well. That'll be the telling point with this one. And I don't know how long it is, so because you kind of leave that main elevator path, and so I might have, I don't know, 10 hours left, or I might have 1. We'll see. But hopefully it ends really well. That's a good one. Yeah, other than the Entropy Center, I also started a new game. I was listening to a podcast this week. I was actually a board game kind of show, and it's this board game reviewer that I really, really like. He's hilarious, and he's actually the one that. Well, that's a conversation for later in the episode. But we played Arcs this week, and a lot of that, the reason we did, is because his review of it came out and he loves it. But he was talking on this thing I was listening to, and he said that Rain World is probably his favorite video game he's ever played. And I was like, wow. I don't think I've ever seen more than a screenshot of this game. I was like, well, I already have it. I don't know how I had it, but it was already in my library. I was like, okay, I'll try it. I don't even know how to explain this game. It's a little unique. It's kind of a Metroidvania game, but you're not really, at least I haven't yet, you're not like getting new abilities for your character. Your character is part slug, part cat. I think they call it a slug cat. And it's partly a survival game, and there's a real like day cycle. So at the end of every day, this like acid rain falls down on the world and basically kills everything unless you're in a safe room. And even these rooms that look like they're safe, they're not safe because the whole facility floods unless you're in one of the locked safe rooms. So there are kind of these safe rooms that you have to get to, and you've got kind of a timer. I wouldn't know what the time is. Probably like 7 minutes or 10 minutes between days or something. To hibernate in that safe room and to kind of level up your karma, I think is what they call it, you have to have eaten at least 4 food each day. So part of your goal each day is to find some food. It can be like some berries growing on trees, or there are bats, like little bat-like creatures that you can eat. Basically anything smaller than you can kind of eat. And it will fill up one of your health circles. The other tricky part about this game is there are a lot of enemies that are bigger than you, and they want to eat you. And that's kind of the tricky part of this game, is it has this weird like and I was reading a little bit about it. They did a lot with like, we want the game to kind of be a simulation. Like we set those creatures in the world, and then they have their own artificial intelligence that's telling them like, okay, you need to go eat, go scavenge for food or whatever. And so you don't know where they're going to be each day. They're like roaming in different spots, but they're roaming based on the rules of that creature. And yeah, it's some of them are very difficult to avoid. They're faster than you, and like if like one of them is kind of like an alligator snake looking thing, and if it like catches you, it'll basically kill you in like 30 seconds, and you're just trapped in its jaws. You can't escape. I did have a couple lucky scenarios where I was able to like try to hop out of his jaws, which you can't do. But by doing that, I was able to get him close enough to another enemy that enemy attacked him, and then it knocked me out of his jaws, and I was able to escape. So it's kind of like physics and simulation based in that way. So it's a survival game. You're trying to get like through this world to find your slug cat family. And other than that, I don't know a ton else about it. It's a kind of a vague game. It reminds me of Hollow Knight in that way, where like it doesn't tell you much. I think there are like things to discover and like find and some lore and stuff like that, but it's very much like figure it out yourself. And you can pick up like little weapons, like there are sticks and that you like hold as a spear that you can huck pretty dang hard. And then that timer and your controller starts shaking like with like 30 seconds left. Then it starts raining and you're freaking out because you're not quite close enough to the safe room. It's a cool game. I don't know yet how much I love it, but I do think it's very fun. It's difficult because it's basically all of these rooms are like I saw one person online kind of compare it to Oddworld, because all of these rooms are like what do they call it? Like a single panel room. Like the background doesn't move, right? You move and then you'll eventually exit a tunnel or a door that takes you to the next room, right? And those tunnels or doors between the rooms, they will light up with a color if something else is coming through it. And so I've had a lot of times where I'm about to go through a door and then the door turns blue, which means that one of those blue crocodile things is coming through it the other way, about to get me. So you have to be like very nimble and ready to like totally like abandon your plan, run and hide, find something quick and throw a rock at that enemy so that you can get past it, because you're way less powerful than them. But all of those things come together in kind of a weird game, but I think it looks really cool. The artwork's like really cool. There's some cool shadows and like sunlight in the game, even though your character is just like some white pixels in a weird cat slug shape. And it looks like it could have like a lot of replayability, and as far as like, okay, this time I want to have a better run where and it's not even fully like a roguelite like that. You're just you have to up kind of your generational karma level. Yeah, it's a very hard game to even explain because I think it's really odd and different than other games that I've played. Oh, and here Devin is a good example. You're seeing two enemies here. There's one of those green kind of crocodile lizard dudes, and then there's this plant here on the left, and if I accidentally grab that, it'll like pull you in. And so I need to not grab onto that plant. It's kind of fun though. You can pit them against each other, and so I think I do get this plant to eat that lizard, hopefully. And luckily he fell off the edge there. But yeah, I don't know. It's cool. I've played 3 segments of it, so probably 4 or 5 hours so far. And there's a lot of different areas you get to, and they like each come with new enemies and new things to like that you need to like solve. And the area I'm in right now is like kind of the dark, creepy one that's full of spider-like enemies, and you have to figure out how to get light because it's always dark. So yeah, I don't know. I really like it. Not sure if I will love it, but very unique. I think the game's very big as well. The like Steam page says I think it has like 1,600 of these like one panel rooms in the game. And I'm like, man, that's very big. And it's had an expansion that added like a bunch of other stuff and other playable characters and co-op and like, and I think they're working on a second expansion too. I think has been a very, very popular game. I think it's mostly been popular on PC, and so I'm very new to Steam and PC this year when I got the Rogue Ally, so I'm just trying to catch up on some of those PC games that I missed. So, anyways, Rain World, the verdict is still out, but I do like the Slug Cat. I like how stressful it is, but you got to be okay with like, whoops, I died because that crocodile monster came through the door right when I was going through it, and some craziness like that. But it's pretty crazy. So that is Rain World. And that is going to do it for the 2 video games that I played this week. All right. Well, I guess I played a couple other little things on my Rogue Ally. I'm still playing Braid. I guess really quick, Devin, just pull up another tab and Google Luftrausers, Luftrausers. This is a game I had on my Vita like 10 years ago, and I love it. And it was on sale for like $1 on Steam during the Steam sale, and I was like, I want that. And man, it's so fun. You are basically like this you're this pilot. And it's just a 2D like kind of arcade game. It reminds me of something like Resogun, but you like strip it down and it's more simple. You're just flying around on this plane and you're shooting the crap out of all of the enemies on the screen. There will be different kinds of planes and boats and blimps, and as you go you're like getting new parts for your ship so you can like specialize in one thing. You can get like a laser or a rocket cannon. You can focus on like a body to your aircraft that lets you go in the water without taking damage. You can focus on one that doesn't take impact damage, so then your goal is just to ram into everything. So it's a very simple, but there's very different builds in that way. Game is super awesome. Yeah, can't recommend it enough. It's by Vlambeer. And I think the game they made after that one is Nuclear Throne, which is also an awesome game. But if you like little indie games, it has awesome art, just awesome music too while you're playing. Your runs last like anywhere from 30 seconds to like 6 minutes. And so it's very much like okay, I'm going to do one more and I can do better. And then you play for 3 hours and you're like, that was awesome. Just kind of that one more run vibe. So Luftrausers, got to give a shout out to that one. Playing a lot of little things like that on my Rogue Ally as well when I'm out and about doing stuff. But so thanks for pulling that up last second, Devin. All right, now we're through all the video games for this week. All right, for board games, I'm going to start just so that I can get one of them kind of out of the way before we talk about the other one. This week I played a couple games. First, I played a new game called Donuts. And this game is very cute. Comes in a very small box. It's a 2-player only game. And similar to a lot of abstract games, you're trying to get 5 of your donuts in a row. If you do, you win. The way that you do it is a little different, though, which I appreciate. It's also pretty simple, and so you can play the game in 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, depending on like how careful you're being. On your turn, you put down a donut of your color. And then on whichever spot you place it, there is a line that separates the white and the pink. And then the next player, your opponent, has to put one of their donuts on a square that is kind of in line with that line, either vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. And so since you know that they're forced to follow that line, you're trying to get them into bad spots and get yourself into good spots. If that line happens to be completely full and there's nowhere for you to put it, then you get to place your donut anywhere on the board. And that's kind of the crux of this game, is you're trying to put your opponent in a spot where they have to play a donut, and then where they have to play it will make it so that there's no spots for you to play, so you get to put it anywhere. And that is usually how I've won in this game. The other cool thing about this game is The donuts flip over, so they're kind of the plain. I don't know what to call that kind of donut. Vanilla. The plain donut on one side, the chocolate donut on the other side. And so it kind of has that Othello or Yinch element where you can flip your opponent's donuts over, but you do it differently in this game. In Othello and Yinch, if you completely surround your opponent's donut or donuts, then you get to flip all the ones in the middle. In this game, you want to insert your donut between two of your opponents, and if you do that, then you get to flip the outside two to your color. Because of those two wrinkles, that you can only place your donut on the line of the last played donut, and that you're trying to insert as opposed to surround your opponent's donuts, it feels a lot different than things like Yinch. I don't think it's quite as like strategically perfect and awesome as Yinch, but it also plays much shorter. Yinch is like 30 minutes. So you have to get 3 sets of 5 in a row. And after you get one, you have to take one of your pieces off the board so you become a little less powerful. Donuts is just first one to get 5 wins. And if nobody gets one, then it's whoever has the biggest grouping of their donuts. So it's really just has like a 5-minute timeline, like unless you're being really slow. So yeah, I think Donuts is great. It's not like the most amazing game, but a really small box, cute, fun pieces. The board is 4 different cardboard pieces that you flip and spin how just randomly when you're setting them up. So the board will be different every time, basically. Yeah, just a really fun 2-player game. If you like 2-player games, I think it's a good one. It was also designed by a really great designer, Bruno Cathala. He's designed many games that are very solid. So anyways, wanted to give a shout out to Donuts before we talk about the other game that we played just last night, Devin. It was kind of a crazy night.
We
was like,
sure did.
Hey, we should try this thing. I'd never played a game on Tabletop Simulator before, but I was like, yeah, I know people do that sometimes, and I have been obsessively reading about Leader Games' next game, Arcs, that is coming to retail, I think in September-ish. And I think people that backed on Kickstarter just getting it now, and Europe is like delivering in the next few weeks. So it's just hitting. It's super hot. It's the hottest game in the world by far right now. And I was like, man, I really just want to at least see what the pieces look like. I want to get in Tabletop Simulator and just play around with it. And so we decided to try it out and play a game. It was a little tricky trying to figure out all of the controls and stuff, but Devin and I played a 2-player game of Arcs last night. It was probably a bad time to start. We started at like midnight, and so we didn't get off till like 3 in the morning. But yeah, I had a really good time. The game is simpler than I thought it would be, but also trickier than I thought it would be as far as like how to play well. And so I think I'm glad for that balance, because if it was any more like rules heavy, then it would be hard to teach somebody, and it would be hard to like get my wife to play with me, or to get somebody that's not really into games to play. There even saying that, there is a few rules and some weird like vocabulary. You're talking about ambitions and construction and trophies and captives and the guild court and initiative. So there's a lot of like words to learn, but once you know what the words mean, what you do on your turn is very simple. Basically, you play a card and then do some actions based on the card that you played. And those actions might be to fight somebody, or to build a building, or to move your ships to some other place in the solar system. So yeah, I don't know. I think it strikes a good balance of those two things, of being a bit simpler for sure to teach than Root is, which is one of my favorite games, but it is very tricky to teach. Also, I think plays a bit quicker than Root, and at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of depth in the card play that I definitely haven't figured out after just playing it once. So anyways, I thought the play was very fun. I'm glad you indulged me, Devin. And yeah, it just made me even more excited to get the game in a couple of months. So I'm excited to I'm probably going to play it a few more times here on Tabletop Simulator. before it shows up. That way I know it really, at least the rules really well. I don't like pretend to be like amazing at games, but I do like it when I know the rules well enough that I could kind of teach it to anybody. So that's kind of my goal with ARX at this point. Yeah, I don't feel like what I said there was very cogent, but Devin, any thoughts on ARX after our play of it last night?
You described it well. I was shocked at how simple it was for me to take a full turn and know that I did every step of my turn.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed by that, but also extremely overwhelmed by not understanding, like you said, the strategy.
Yeah.
I think this game, you need to go play it 3-4 times like you're gonna, and then you're gonna understand how everything connects. But beautiful game. Easy to play. It wasn't difficult to take my turn every time, and I didn't make many mistakes taking a turn, which I typically do. But end game, you beat me by 20 times my points. And
when I was
so my strategy was just, I didn't have a strategy, but I understood how the game worked. So
yeah, when I edited the video today, actually, I found one mistake. I forgot to give you 3 points when because you got second place on one of the ambitions, and for some reason we just forgot to give you the 3 points. You should have had 3 more. And then in the fourth round, where me, you, and the fake third player all tied on like 2 of the objectives, I thought I read the rules correctly that if 3 players tie, that everybody gets 0, but you actually all get the second score. So then you got.
So you would have just won by like round 3.
Round 4, yep.
Round 4.
So I cut the last round out of our playthrough and put some text on the screen to say that like we just made a scoring error here, but the game would have ended here at 37-13. So you scored more than you thought you did.
Hey, 1/3 your points. Let's go.
Yeah, I do think this game would be better with more than 2 players because there is a little bit of like a runaway leader problem. I feel like it's a little hard to like build momentum in the game. Again, and that is very much like a beginner's like perspective. There probably are great ways to like build momentum, and even though you took out 3 of my ships, I'm gonna get back at you and cut you down so that you can't get too far ahead of me. But we obviously were just trying to take turns correctly as opposed to like thinking of like the perfect strategy all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I've been thinking about it like all day, which I think is usually a sign of like a good game because it's kind of stuck in your head. So yeah, I just want to play it more. Again, probably another sign of a game that I'll really like. At this point, I have no idea like if I will like super love it or if I'll just like it, but I think I will definitely at least like it. Lots more to discover there. We didn't play with the leaders and the lore pack, which adds like your own like faction leader that makes you very different than the other players, with some background lore that again makes you very different than the other players. And we haven't even looked at the 3-game kind of expansion campaign that adds like a lot of other new things. So I just want to like focus on the base game for a little bit until I get that down. But yeah, I don't know. ARX I think is really cool. I really like the sci-fi theme. The artwork is the same artist that does all of their games. So it's the same artist that does the art in Root. The art is very much more out of the way in this game than it is in Root, I think. Like there isn't art of like your character on your board like there is in Root, where you have your board that's like you're the lizard cult. So your board has the picture of the lizards on it 40 times. Which I think is good. And I think once we do add the leaders kind of mini expansion in, it will make it feel a little bit more like that with cool art. And the cards all have cool art on them, but I don't feel like we got as many cards in our play as like normally people go through. So, and I know the expansion adds like tons and tons and tons of cards. So I think the kind of artistic flair is kind of hidden in the cards. But I do like how simple the board is, and it's still pretty in its simplicity with like this cool like solar system. But yeah, very much it's just like, here's a triangle spot you could build a building, and here are 4 regions in a sector and 6 sectors, and that's the whole board basically. So it's kind of usability over like beauty, which I appreciate. So yeah, anyways, I could probably talk too much about this game, and I still don't have like a firm grasp on my final like opinion of it, so I'd probably just be kind of talking myself in circles. But Arcs is really fun. If you want to watch Devin and I play it, make sure to check that video out. I'll put a link in this in the description of this podcast episode, and it's should be live tonight, so it's already live if you're hearing this. So anyways, that was a fun time playing Arcs. I love board games. It's fun to like play a new one, and the thing I like most about their games is I feel like they take like some crazy, I don't know if risks is the right word, but they definitely try to make their games like unique. Like, hey, we're gonna lean hard into like these weird terms instead of, I don't even know how to explain it. Like even the resources are called relics and psionics, and they could have been called like, here's gold and silver, and I don't know, they just like really lean into kind of their cool themes, and then they also lean into like odd gameplay mechanisms. Like ransacking the court is like a thing I've been thinking about all day. I'm like, when do I want to do that? I have to destroy a city, and then when I do that, I'm punished because I have to lose all of my resources of that type, and I have to put a blocker on that resource spot so I can't use its kind of mini ability. But then I get to ransack the court, so I get to go take any card from the court and basically kill all of the agents on it, so I get a bunch of trophies that round. Like, when is that like the most useful? So there's like these weird mechanisms kind of tied together, and I feel like you kind of understand the nuance after like we've said a few times, many more plays of it. But yeah, I really like this one. I really like how you get to choose the dice you take into battle. You can be really safe with all the blue ones, be really risky with all the red ones, or just really try and steal everyone's stuff with the orange ones, or some mixture of the 3. And so yeah, I like those, and I like that you don't have to do a defense roll. All the defense kind of hits and stuff are just on those dice as well. So it's just one roll, and then you divvy up the damage. So yeah, nice, cool game. Excited to play it some more. Yeah, I think that's all that I have to say at this point about Arcs, other than, like I've said a few times, very excited to play it some more. Alrighty, Devin, anything else you want to go over in what we've been playing, board game or video game related, or should we hop into the news?
It is news time. I have nothing.
News time. Cool. Love it. All right, just a few items of news this week. There were a couple that were kind of big, at least as far as like a lot of people were talking about them. I don't know how big of a deal they are, but first up on the Xbox side, we got a couple pieces of news. There was like a rumor the day before, and then one of the industry leakers, I can't remember which one it was, said that yeah, they were hearing that this was true. And then I think just today, Xbox confirmed they are launching a new Game Pass tier. They're increasing the price, I think, of every tier. And that new tier is called Standard, and it will be removing day one Xbox games as a feature of that Standard tier of Game Pass. And that's kind of crazy, since that's kind of been their whole thing is, yeah, you get Halo, you get Gears of War, and anytime we make a new game, you get Starfield, you get Starfield on day one in Game Pass. But it seems like they want to undo that approach a little bit, probably because now they've got Call of Duty and things like that, and they're like, okay, Call of Duty sells 30 million copies every year. That's like $2 billion. I'm that math was not math. I just said a number. And it's hard to make up $2 billion if we're giving this game just included in our subscription. So I'm guessing there's a lot of number crunching and stuff going on over there. So just some more details. That standard tier is $14.99 per month. Like I said, will not include day one games. It will have like a catalog of like 100 games, but so it'd kind of be like Sony's subscription at that point, where it doesn't include like Horizon on day one, but in a year it might. The other tiers are getting price increases, like I mentioned. So there's a tier called Core, which is kind of their lowest level one, kind of like PlayStation Plus Essential. And I think you can only get that one in 12-month increments. That one is increasing from $59.99 a year to $74.99 per year. PC Game Pass is increasing from $9.99 a month to $11.99 per month. And Ultimate is increasing from $16.99 to $19.99 per month. Kind of the tricky part here is they have another tier currently, but it has now gone away like almost overnight. If you are a new Game Pass subscriber, you cannot sign up under this tier anymore. It's called Game Pass Console. And that one was, if I don't play on PC, but I still want like the full Game Pass experience, I still want day one games, that was that tier. If you had that tier prior to this weird mix-up today, you can keep it if you have auto renew set up, at least for some unforeseen amount of time. The new pricing is effective today, July 10th. And for existing members, it will go into effect in the coming weeks. I don't remember exactly the day it said. I think September 12th there. Anyway, so a few changes there. I don't know. I think that Game Pass is still like a really great deal. Like Ultimate going up $16.99 to $19.99 a month is still a great deal at those $3 extra because you get so many games, and they give away way more games on like launch than like Sony's subscription does. But they've had a lot of price increases. I think this is the second price increase in like the last year. So I don't know. It just makes me think that I don't know how long they're even going to be able to stay at this price. I don't know, Devin. Have you? I think you used PC Game Pass for a few months, a couple years ago or something. Have you had any other experience with Game Pass? We had a free trial for a few months.
I think I've just done multiple free trials.
Yeah,
or maybe I did pay for it. I don't remember.
Can't remember either. When I got my Rogue Ally, it came with a 3-month trial, and that was kind of fun. I think that's how we played Lies of P. So they have some like bigger new games on there, which is cool. But I feel like they're in a weird place where they don't know what to do, and they have changed like the tiers and the names of the tiers and the pricing of the tiers a lot lately. And I think it's sending some like weird signals to the Xbox community, and they're like a little confused. About like why can't we just leave the tiers, and if you need to raise the price, like that's what we get it. Like Netflix and everything else is going up too, but like lots of changes. So very interesting stuff. I don't know that I have a lot more to say about it. It kind of seems like they're just kind of in a rough spot. For the last like 5-ish years, they really pushed Game Pass like hard. Like they want this to be the thing for them, but for it to make enough money to cover like Call of Duty's like expected sales and all of their other games, Halo's expected sales and Gears of War, and you would expect those franchises to sell a crap ton. They're gonna need to have like 100 million people signed up for this thing, which is a big number. I think they have like 25 million right now, and you can just tell, I think, from the price increases and all of the changes that that's not enough money to cover all of them. So they're in a weird spot, especially when because of Game Pass, I think the Xbox audience, even more than others, is like, I don't really buy games on the Xbox platform so much because all of the Microsoft games are included day one in my subscription, and a lot of like the other games that I want to play are either there day one or will be there pretty quickly. So I think they've kind of trained their audience not to buy stuff too much. And then now they're taking away like day one games in that like standard tier. So it's a really weird circumstance. They're in kind of a rough spot where their platform isn't selling very well. And they obviously want it to sell better and they want more subscribers. And this kind of parlays into point number 2. So let me read point number 2, Devin, then you can give me any other thoughts about it if you have any. Number 2, they also released a new commercial, Xbox did. I don't know if this commercial is just like a YouTube trailer or if it's going to be like shown on television, but it is a partnership with Xbox and Amazon announcing that Game Pass is now available on the Amazon Fire TV Stick. I thought it was a little bit clever of a commercial. It's riffing on Scream. She gets like a phone call and it's like, hey, do you want to play a game? And she's like, who is this? You know, very much like Scream. But then the person on the phone says, no, an Xbox game. And she's like, well, I don't have an Xbox. Don't you need an Xbox? And he's like, no, you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox. And then it like pops up with Xbox is now on the Fire Stick. And this has kind of been talked about a bit online too, is this their new strategy that you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox? And it seems like with the waning sales of their console that they might just be leaning into it. Just, okay, this is going to be the streaming and Game Pass service. You don't need an Xbox to play Xbox anymore. And hopefully streaming gets good enough for them faster because I don't think streaming games is a very good experience yet. But anyway, so those two things are probably, at least strategy-wise, behind the scenes kind of tied together. But I don't know that there's a ton more to say other than it has happened. And I don't really know. It's very interesting to kind of watch their just the speed at which they are changing like things. They're just like, very quickly over there. Boom, 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 boom. I make that noise a lot lately. The boom, 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 booms. Maybe it's
boom, boom.
When I don't know what else to say. But I don't know. Anything that you want to say, Devin, about the Xbox stuff, or should we move on?
Not really. It is interesting. They're raising the prices of their subscription, but then encouraging people to not buy their consoles.
Yeah. And I
don't know. I think they're probably just like, what are we doing for the next couple of years? They'll figure it out.
Yeah, it is weird because they have said they're making like an Xbox Series 2 or whatever they're going to call it. But I'm like, why even do that if you just want, because it seems like they just want like the potential market share, right? By putting Xbox on Fire Stick, well, now there's I don't even know the number, but there's 100 million people that have Fire Sticks, and most of them don't have Xboxes. And so in theory, that's 100 million, not exactly, but 100 million Xbox consoles, in quotes, that are in people's houses. So I think they just want to kind of sneak in like, yeah, you can play Xbox on your phone, you can play it on your Fire Stick, play it on your smart TV, play it on your toaster.
Maybe it'll be the strat.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I think, like I said, streaming technology needs to improve, and internet kind of infrastructure, especially in America, needs to get a lot better if they want that to be the thing. Because input lag, and like internet lag and stuff is just crazy on those sometimes. All right, well, that's the Xbox stuff this week. Next up is a little weird thing. Nintendo just randomly tweeted this 20-second teaser video this morning. And everyone's like, what the heck is this? It's like a very not Nintendo teaser video. It has a warning at the beginning that says you can play it, Devin, there's nothing in it. It says the video contains scenes that some viewers may find disturbing. It's not really disturbing. There's no like violence or anything. It's just a guy standing with a plastic bag over his head with a smiley face drawn on it. Definitely trying to be like a halfway horror vibe. And then it just ends. And I think the tweet went out with the hashtag on it, and the hashtag was who is Emio or Emio. And so people are like, what the heck is it? You just had your Nintendo Direct where you showed Zelda as the new playable character in Zelda, in the next Zelda game, and like everything's colorful and happy, and just randomly on a random Wednesday tweet out this like tease for a horror thing. Kind of odd, but we'll see.
Strange.
We'll see what that is. I did see a tweet kind of just a few minutes ago that said that I guess there's a ratings board rating in Korea, and it is rated M, whatever it is. So I don't know. It seems like it is like at least kind of an adult, like themed kind of game that's going to be mature in some way. So I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's cool. I'm all for Nintendo branching out, but this, kind of caught me, I think, everyone off guard today because this is not generally their thing. But we'll see. All right, couple more small things. There's a German video game development team called Piranha Bytes. They've made some games that I would probably classify as like AA or A games called Gothic, Elix, and Risen. They were a subsidiary of the Embracer Group, and their development team's been shut down. So sorry for them, everyone affected. I hope you land on your feet. The founder and his wife tweeted out an image that they've started a new indie. They named it an initiative, so I'm not sure if it's a indie studio, but the name of the initiative is Pithead Studio. So I imagine it's a little indie team. So hopefully they'll make some cool stuff. Just wanted to give that some acknowledgement since there's been a lot of closures and layoffs this year. Okay, next up, a couple weird money moves. So there's a lot of these gacha games nowadays. We got Genshin Impact, and I think there's a new one called like Ender Zone something. Anyways, one of the newest ones came out a few weeks ago. It's called The First Descendant, and people have been saying it's pretty good. It's like okay, but it like wants your money pretty badly. It's kind of like a Destiny shooter with some very like Japanese anime kind of vibes. I think a Forbes writer was looking at like the iconography in the game. He's like, this iconography looks like exactly like Destiny. And it turns out you can see those images, Devin. The image on the left is the image from Destiny, and the image on the right, I believe, is the image from or maybe that's vice versa. But one of the two.
Either way, they're in trouble.
They're like identical.
No. Oh no.
And so people are like, this is a game from a very big like team. And so they're like, why didn't you have the budget to pay like 100 artists on this game, but you couldn't have somebody make some icons? Kind of a weird look for them. I think there was some back and forth with like Bungie and their team, and it like kind of came out that these icons were like icons that they purchased from some third party website. And so they do have like the rights to use those, but they're kind of like a generic knockoff version. In that company, it was called Icon Duck, I believe. And that company is like a Destiny 2 or a Destiny like a category of icons, and those are in there. So yeah, kind of weird. I guess they legally can use them, but it's still still like a really bad look, really dumb. And then the next one, Devin, I thought this might be interesting to you since Apex was kind of your thing for a minute. And I played that with you a little bit. I'm terrible at it because it's such a high speed game. Man, you have to
I would
fast.
like my money back. Apex Legends.
I probably spent like $10 in that game, I bet.
Oh, multiply that by 100 and we're close.
Oh, wow. What would you buy?
Skins.
Okay.
Shards. What could you get in there? What was it? An heirloom? Is that what it is? Yeah. Just trying to get those. The fancy, unique weapon for the character you like.
Weapon drop or something? Okay. And is it like a randomized loot box drop? It is.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're guaranteed an heirloom every 500 boxes. Oh, and
how many 500s did you buy? And
I got 2 heirlooms. I think it's got to be close to $800. Yeah, not proud of that.
That's funny. You probably earned some of those Apex coins to buy those packs like organically, but anyways, I guess people are upset with their newest battle passes. They're going into season 22. I think it maybe just started this week or something. The battle pass is split into 2 sections. They have, well, I guess it's 3. They have the free section, the premium section, that's $9.99, and the premium plus section, that is like an extra cost. I think it's an extra $9.99 on top of premium. So there's basically 2 stacked battle passes. And the other kicker is you can no longer buy the battle pass with Apex coins, which has kind of been a thing for like Fortnite and Apex for a long time. That like if you play a bunch, you'll earn a bunch of either Fortnite V-Bucks or these Apex coins, and then you can buy the next battle pass with that currency. And you can see there on like the premium old column, you can see that the cost of it is 950 Apex coins. That's what it used to be. And you could buy that by buying like a $10 pack probably, or by accumulating those 950 coins. But then the new version has no way to pay coins for it. It's just only money. So I think people are upset at both of those things, that there's 2 battle passes each season and you can't use your coins anymore. So anyways, I thought that was kind of silly, especially for some of these games that are absolutely monstrous. Like, they've got to be making so much money.
Yeah, why do you need more?
I get that like a corporation's job is to extract as much money as possible, but I feel like this is such a dumb like move that will just make your audience mad. And if you make them mad, you're gonna make less money. I don't know. They must have some analysts over there that think that that it's worth that after their cost benefit analyses or whatever. But anyways, those were the 2 weird kind of money battle pass things this week. All right. Well, I guess last up, Devin, when do you think the last time you played Apex was? Are you avoiding it to not go after more heirlooms?
Yeah, I think I just played the crap out of that game for a minute, and sometimes you just want something different.
Yeah.
Like I can stick with a game for a long time, but eventually I'm just like, I've seen it all.
Yeah. Were you most into that game when you were playing it on console? I think eventually you transitioned to keyboard and mouse and PC with that one, right?
Yeah, I've played this game on both of those inputs a lot.
Okay, so you think it was pretty split, not one more than the other, really?
Yeah, not really. I used to use a SCUF controller for this for extra buttons, and then went to KBM and realized how amazing keyboard and mouse is for first-person shooters.
Yeah, it is nice, but then I feel like the competition's even higher because then everybody else is great at aiming too.
Yeah, and then you go and you invest in a lower input lag, higher frame rate monitor, so you have some like advantage maybe others don't have. Yeah, better mouse. It's like
and an aimbot. You got to get those.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, that is all the video game news this week. Last up, we're just going to hit video game crowdfunding corner real quick. And the one game I wanted to give a shout out to this week, I don't know if it's a game for me, but it's a Game Boy Advance inspired action RPG. And I loved the Game Boy Advance, but RPGs I'm very like hit or miss with. So I'm not sure about this one, but it's called, and I'm probably not saying this right, Tako no Himitsu. And it's just, I think, launched on Kickstarter today or yesterday. It has cool, like, old style Game Boy Advance art, and you're going on a journey. You've got a party of characters, and you're, solving puzzles and fighting and stuff. Kind of RPG fare there. It has the, I think, composer of another famous video game called Golden Sun doing the music for it. And so I think that paired with the idea that they're really focusing on having it look like a Game Boy Advance game has got quite a few people kind of excited about it. I do love that era of like, yeah, it's pixel art, but it's a little more colorful because it's like a Game Boy Advance game than like the pixel art was on, I don't know, the Game Boy or the Game Boy Color, obviously. So I don't know. I don't think it's a game for me, but if you like those kind of retro games, wanted to give that one a shout out. I think we went over Mina the Hollower a couple weeks ago, and that one is meant to that is being made by Yacht Club, the team that made Shovel Knight, and that one's meant to be a Game Boy Color kind of retro nod to that console. And that one's like very action, like kind of dodge, roll, punch kind of game as opposed to like an RPG like this. So I'm way excited for Mina the Hollower. This one could go either way, but probably not a David game. Anyways, then last call for 2 games. We talked about these ones last week. This is Tiny Garden, tiny little game where you're farming inside a little Tamagotchi little toy thing. It ends on August 1st, so it actually has a bit of time left, but this is the last time I'm going to mention it on the show, so just wanted to give it a last call. And then Sunset Hills ends on July 28th. This is the one where you play as that dog, kind of going around the town, solving little mysteries. I think as a kind of like a detective and helping people around town. And I thought the artwork was so cool looking. So yeah, just wanted to give them a last shout out. All right, Devin, that is all the video game news. Board game news this week. Just one thing that I thought was kind of cool, mainly because it also included Utah, where we live. There's a company called Peterson Games, and they've made quite a few games that people really enjoy. I haven't played any of their games, but it shows here on their page Orcs Must Die, the board game, Planet Apocalypse, and I think their most popular game is called Cthulhu Wars. Has these big like Cthulhu statues. I'm guessing it's kind of like a 1v1 skirmish game or something. I just pulled that out of my head. I don't know if that's true, but anyways. So they've been fairly successful. It sounded like, just from the reading I was doing, shout out to Board Game Wire for their article on this. I'm going to quote some of their article in a minute. They, in 2020 with COVID, they got in like some financial trouble, and they had some Kickstarter projects that they weren't able to fulfill to some of their backers. And so they've kind of been struggling with what to do for a while. I guess there was another quote that said that like the struggle they've been having is they will make like what they think is a really solid game, and then whatever factory they partner with in China to like make the game and make the miniatures sends back like they'll send what I think it's called a proof, or like here's the test one and it looks great, but then they make the actual game and it looks like garbage. And so like they had to pay like a lot of extra money to like have things remade and stuff. And because of that difficulty finding a good partner for them in China, they've struggled. Some companies have quite a bit of success making things in China, so I don't know if it was just bad factory or whatnot. But anyways, that was a little bit of background. There's another company in Utah called Quimbley's Toys and Games, and they have signed kind of a partnership deal with Peterson Games. So Peterson Games will become kind of the game design portion of Quimbley's and help them make up new ideas for games. And Quimbley's is going to take on all of the manufacturing and fulfillment of games so that Peterson doesn't have to worry about it anymore. So a couple cool things from that partnership. The first quote here is from the president of Quimbley's Games, and these quotes are from Board Game Wire. Again, shout out to them. Quote, Paul Halley, the president of Quimbley's since December last year, is a longtime web developer, according to his LinkedIn page, and also owns Salt Lake City-based Impulse Power Wash. In a blog post on the Quimbley's site, he said the company had acquired a large warehouse space in Salt Lake City, as well as printers and laser cutters, in order to be able to manufacture its own games without being reliant on long supply chains and international factories, end quote. I thought that was kind of cool. They're going to make their own games here in Salt Lake City. Basically, everybody uses factories in China. Not everybody, but almost every game I've kickstarted, they usually have like their shipping timeline, and it's all about like production begins at the factory here, and then it ships overseas for 2 months, and then it gets, to the ports, and then the ports have to unpack, and then they have to send them from the distribution centers. So I've never heard of a company, and I've never heard of Quimbley's, so they can't be that big. But I thought it was really cool that they're starting their own thing, and they're going to print their own games in Salt Lake City. Last thing about this story, in an update to their Kickstarter backers, Sandy Peterson, who is kind of the founder of Peterson Games, said, and there's another quote here from that article. Quote, "You've read about our woes with working with China in the past. That may all be like a bad dream, which just goes away. I will be directly able to walk into the factory here in America and look at the product as it comes off of the machines. We'll be able to make prototypes much faster." Quimbley's said it expects to deliver the first outstanding Kickstarter after Cthulhu Wars Hyperspace in April 2025. So I don't know. Sounds like they're getting some cool stuff done with that partnership. And shout out to it being in Salt Lake City, and shout out to them, keeping things here domestic in America. I think that's a cool thing, even though it's definitely cheaper to have a factory in China make your stuff. If you're able to move faster and control the quality yourself, hopefully they're able to keep kind of the same cost level when all of that is factored in. But cool thing there. I just wanted to give that a shout out. So that was the board game news, kind of that. Other than all of the convention stuff and people announcing games, and we kind of went over some of those earlier in the episode. So that was the item in board game news. So we're going to go into crowdfunding corner. For board games, this is usually a longer segment because there's always dozens of games on crowdfunding corner. And so we've got a few here that we're going to go over. First one is called Emerald Skulls. This is a game from Thunderworks Games. Their most popular game is probably Cartographers. And they make all of their games with the same kind of art style. The art style is pretty good. I like it. I didn't love Cartographers, though. I'm very much in the minority on that one. Some people really love it. But this one looks pretty fun. It's a dice rolling game, and you're betting on these dice rolls. Ends July 24th, so you've got a couple of weeks. And I think the game is $20, and shipping is $5. So I thought that was a pretty reasonable price. It's kind of a smaller box, dice rolling game, so it's nothing like too crazy, but pretty good price for that. They also have some cool premium upgrades like these metal gears as opposed to cardboard ones. So yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to that one, even though I haven't been a fan of their games in the past. That is Emerald Skulls. Next up is a game that has cool pieces. Again, I don't know much about it, but it's called Peaks. This campaign goes through July 25th, and in this game you're trying to get the most points by climbing these mountains all over the world. And they say that kind of their unique aspect of your game is you get to what do they call it? You get to it's called a follow mechanism, I think, where you can go along with someone on their kind of hike. And so if you can plan well and see, I think Devin's going to do this, I'm going to put myself in a position so that I can go along with him on his kind of hike. So there's a lot of halfway working together, even though you're all trying to competitively get the most points. I thought the flag pieces are pretty cool. You're putting your flag on the top of these mountains all over the world to show which mountain you've climbed, I believe. And yeah, the game looks pretty as far as the pieces are concerned, in my opinion. And I probably need to look into the gameplay a little more because I'm not 100% sold on that portion yet, but I do like the follow idea. That's a pretty popular thing right now in games, is the follow mechanism. So shout out to Peaks. Next up, there is a game called 20 Strong. 20 Strong has been pretty popular. It has, I think the company is Chip Theory Games, and this is their smallest game by far. They usually make really big games where not all, but most of the pieces are big poker chips. So they come in big boxes and are usually expensive games because they're really nice poker chips. These are very small games where each box, I think, has 20 dice in it, hence the name. And it's kind of a smaller, simpler game that's solo primarily, and you can play in 20 minutes. And they have, I think, 3 different 20 strong versions already. I think their goal is to just release a bunch of different variants. Okay, here's the 20 strong version in this world, and in this game world. And they've used like some of the game worlds from their other games, and then it kind of tweaks that 20 strong core kind of gameplay. Anyways, this one's called Tangle Woods, which I think is just some new property. I don't think Tangle Woods was a pre-existing property, but it has a few different pledge levels. Oh yeah, you can see there that there's at least 3 other ones. One based on Too Many Bones, Solar Sentinels, and what's it called? Hiplomachus Victorum, something like that, and one next year based on Cloudspire. So yeah, I think there are 3 20-strong boxes in this pledge: white, gold, and red. I haven't played or seen much about these yet, but I know they've been pretty popular lately, so I'm going to check that one out. I think of those 20 strong boxes, I don't think this Tanglewoods set would be the one that I would be interested in. Probably one of the other 3. But if you're into that game, that one is on GameFound actually until July 26th. Okay. Next up is a game also that is, the campaign runs through July 26th, called Boom Patrol. And it looks like a very silly, like, kind of game that you might play with your kids. But I thought the cool part of this game were these funny little tank pieces. And you like move your tank around, and then it has kind of a dial, snap, I forget what those are called, piece in the middle that holds the top of the tank on. And the top of the tank will rotate so that you can, I think, move and shoot in different directions, and you make like a little battle arena and line up shots and stuff. I don't think it's a game for me. It looks like if you took like a kid version of something like a war game, like Warhammer or something, where you're doing measurements between characters and stuff, but then tried to make like a family kid version of it. So I applaud the effort, and I think it looks fun and silly. Don't really think it's for me, but I do think, Devin, if you scroll down, they have a deluxe pledge, if I remember correctly, where everything was like holographic. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong. Oh yeah, those holofoil tanks.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, I don't think that's the best looking holofoil in the world, but maybe the picture's not a good picture. And some plastic pieces and stuff. So if you like a silly good time, or maybe you're really into wargaming and want to, help your kids get into it as well, then that might be a starting point. That was Boom Patrol. I thought it looked unique. Okay, 2 more. Next up is Rise of Babel. This is a game about building the Tower of Babel. And the thing that looked cool to the words looked cool about this game to me, a couple. The artwork is done by Andrew Bosley, who does some of the best artwork. Basically, Ian O'Toole, whose name I said earlier, Andrew Bosley, and Vincent Dutray are like the 3 artists in the board game space that like get the most, love, and their art is used like most often. So the art looks really awesome. And then as far as like the gameplay is concerned, you are using like your elephant to pull your cart and take as many pieces as you can to the tower. And then as you build the tower, once all of the, blocks on that layer of the tower are complete, it looked like you like plop a new piece of cardboard on top of that and then start another layer. So you're kind of like building these layers on top of layers of this tower. I haven't looked too much into the mechanisms or how the gameplay like flows, but I thought it had a cool vibe, and that idea of kind of building a stacking tower could be cool if like the moment to moment gameplay looks pretty cool. Yeah, I think if you scroll down just a little bit more, Devin, it will show a GIF of move your elephant, finish the level, and score. I think those are supposed to be moving. I don't know why they're not moving. Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
So yeah, you like move your elephant up, put some stuff in there, and then the one beneath it will show like it stacks. So I don't know. Need to look into that one a little bit more, but it's got a bit of a buzz, a lot of previews from board game YouTubers and stuff on that page. So I think it's I think people are excited about it. All right, and last up is a game by Plaid Hat Games. whose games I haven't played one of their games, but their games are very like story heavy. Like usually have like an app that you can play them with, or like a booklet, and you'll read like story beats as you go kind of along this story. I think there are two more recent games that are in this. They're calling it the Crossroads kind of a collection. Are Forgotten Waters and Freelancers, which I think a lot of people liked, but this is their newest one. It's called Wandering Galaxy. And yeah, it's a cooperative game, I believe, set in space. So kind of, and it looked like it had a similar vibe, just instead of Freelancers, which is kind of fantasy, Forgotten Waters is kind of pirates. This one looked like it was kind of a space version of that. You make your own character, and yeah, just kind of go through this story campaign with the other players. So yeah, I haven't played one of their games, so I'm not the best person to talk about it. Again, games like this that are really story heavy or cooperative are tricky for me. But I wouldn't be against playing one of them to just see if I vibe with it or not. Anyways, that's Wandering Galaxy. Wanted to give it a shout out. Okay, Devin, before we do the last call here on Crowdfunding Corner, which of those 6 games, again, just based on the Kickstarter page and the cover and the words I said, is the Devin pick of the week?
Oh, that's tough. It's between Emerald Skulls, Tanglewoods, and Rise of Babel.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that. Those ones, they all look good. Those 3 probably have the strongest art of the other games, in my opinion. So yeah, cool.
I do like my art.
I do as well. I'm a sucker for good components and good artwork. Yeah, of the games there, I don't know. I'm interested in how Peaks plays because it has a cool like a world map with the flags and the mountains you're climbing, and Rise of Babel as well. But probably 20 Strong, just because I want to try that solo game that's supposed to play pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm not sure. None of those is like screaming at me this week, but a couple of them look solid. All right, last call on 2 games here. Wanted to give a shout out to Deep Regrets. It's actually doing very well on here. It's in the BGG hotness list, which is impressive for a game kind of made by a tiny team. And yeah, just another shout out. We talked about this game last week. Very cool, like I don't even know, Lovecraftian art, creepy eldritch creatures down in the ocean, and you're fishing for these fish cards, trying to decide how deep you want to fish and how many regrets you take to see if you like go insane or not. And it looks like a fun game. I am backing this one. I hope that it I hope the gameplay is solid. So yeah, I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. And then the other one I think also looks good, but I if I didn't already have Root and a couple other games like this, I think last week, I called it kind of like a mix of Fractured Sky and Root. If I didn't have both of those games, this one would be intriguing to me, because you're kind of fighting. The whole shtick of this game is you don't always want to win every fight. You have to decide like, okay, it's best for me to yield in this fight, hence the name of the game being Yield, and kind of cut your losses and just come back to fight another day. And it has these cool dials where you are hiding how many troops that you were kind of sending with one of your 3 leaders. And so it seems like a big kind of a reveal when you do the fights to determine who has the most troops with them. Again, kind of Fractured Sky vibes there. So I don't know. I think it looks really good, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to back this one, unfortunately. But it ends on the 19th, so you got 9 more days for Yield. Alrighty, that's all the news, all the board game news, all the video game news. Devin, I know you've been sick, so I'm not going to keep you very long, but I wanted to ask you one question here at the end of the episode.
Oh yes.
Last night we played Arcs on Tabletop Simulator, It was the first time I'd ever used Tabletop Simulator, like I said earlier. And man, I thought that app was really cool. And all day today, I was thinking, man, do I need to stop like buying so many board games? Because I struggle to get like a bunch of people over to my house, to play them. It's just hard. Just inherently, that's hard.
Yeah.
And like the experience on there is pretty cool and pretty fun. I'm like, man, I could play like way more games and spend way less money. Just kind of by focusing on that. I think I'll still have a lot of games that I want to have like in person, but yeah, I don't know. So my question for you was, have you had any experiences either with board games or video games that were kind of like, I wrote down here, paradigm shifting gaming experiences? Because that was kind of like a weird moment for me today, thinking about it and playing last night, where I'm like, man, this was a $10 app on Steam here during the Steam summer sale, and all of these like workshop mods for these board games are usually free because the companies just want to like market and promote their games. So if you can try it there, you're probably more likely to buy it in person. And so I could try out like thousands of games for almost no cost, which is crazy because in the board game world, it's kind of a high cost of entry, right? If I want a game, it's $50. I might not like it. There's sometimes like shops that let you like rent a game. It's like, okay, you can rent it for $5 or $10 and you bring it back next week. But that's kind of hard as well to find a shop that does that. I don't know. It's kind of a weird paradigm shift. I have a couple other paradigm shifting experiences that I wrote down here, but I wanted to ask you if you've had any of those that you can think of that kind of changed the way that you either think about games or what you thought was possible in a game. Any paradigm shifting moments?
I'm looking up the definition because I'm like, what?
Yeah. So a paradigm is like the way that you think or the way that you look at the world. And so a paradigm shift is like, let me give you one of my examples and maybe that'll spur something. So I have almost exclusively played on PlayStation devices for 15 years, probably. Other than, I'll play a Nintendo game here or there. But I like trophies. I like having everything in one ecosystem. It's just simpler for me. This, I think February, I got a Steam Deck competitor called the Rogue Ally that I have Epic Game Store on, and Steam, and Itch, and GOG. And it's kind of opened my eyes to like the whole world of PC gaming. And there are so many games that aren't on consoles that I can now try. And Steam has like much better sales. And so I've been like, oh my gosh, what have I been missing all this time? And it's way fun to play them on like a handheld device that has a 1080 screen, can play at 120 frames per second on the device itself. So I think having that device has kind of changed my perspective on gaming this year. I've found myself being less interested in trophies, which I think is a good change for me because I don't want to be too addicted to like digital dings, even though I do like them. So I think that's been like a paradigm changing experience for me, realizing how good Steam is, how much like cool computer like tech they can fit in a small like handheld form factor nowadays. That thing's pretty awesome. Even though I don't have the extreme version, I just have the kind of the baseline Rogue Ally. It's pretty dang powerful. I played Liza P on it at 60 frames per second. Like what the heck?
Yeah, that's wild.
So I don't know. That's an example of a paradigm shifting game experience for me. Any pop to mind, or I can keep talking.
Keep talking. I should have looked at this closing question before we started.
No, you're okay. The two others that come to mind. First one is I remember getting Ape Escape, or I don't remember if we got it for a birthday or Christmas, and we turned it on, and we were greeted with a message on the PlayStation or on the TV that said, you need to insert a DualShock controller to play this game. And our parents did not know that you had to have one. And so the game would not start past that screen, so we couldn't play it. I think the next day or two we finally did get one. I think it was a red Mad Catz like knockoff, and it probably broke like pretty quick. But anyways, playing Ape Escape with two analog sticks, I think was a pretty like experience for me too. And ever since that moment, you kind of never go back from analog sticks. I still prefer playing 2D games with the D-pad. I mean, my name is D-pad Dave on a lot of things. I love the D-pad. But for 3D games, man, the analog stick, that was a big change. So I remember that game specifically just because you could run in one direction and then use the right analog stick to like swing your net or your stun baton or whatever tool you're using in a totally different direction. And without the analog sticks, you couldn't really do that. So that's another one that I thought of. And the last one for me, and I don't know that I've fallen off of VR. I just don't think I have enough money to be in the early adopter or virtual reality world at this point in my life. I have the original PlayStation VR. I got it a few years after it came out. So it was on a super sale one day and I was like, okay, I'll try it. At that point, I'd been in PlayStation Plus for so long. I had like 30 VR games just from like the PlayStation Plus collection kind of growing. And so it was kind of the right time where I could get it for a good sale. And I already had like 30 games, so I didn't have to buy a lot of games or whatever. And man, that was kind of a crazy experience too, putting the VR headset on for the first time, even though when I put it on nowadays, I'm like, man, the resolution on this is not great. And using those PlayStation 3 Move controllers is also not great. And you have to plug in the PlayStation camera to track everything. So it's a big mess. But man, I remember being like totally bewildered at that. Playing the two games I think that most bewildered me are Astrobot's Rescue Mission, which is an awesome game where you play as like a big robot that's watching Astro do these 3D like Mario kind of levels. But since you're watching him, you're also controlling him like you're playing Mario. But you can like look around and backwards, and at times like you will have to like Astro will have to go like behind you to like do stuff. And so the boss fights and stuff and the levels in that game are awesome. And then I think the most like wow, VR is cool moment for me was probably playing two games. I can't decide which one is like the more of the wow moment. I do think of these two games, Super Hot and Beat Saber. I think Beat Saber has a lot more staying power because it's like, man, you can play that. It's like Guitar Hero. You can play it hundreds and hundreds of times, even the same song, just on different difficulties or whatever, and have a good time. And Super Hot is just so fun with like if I move, then the world starts moving, but if I hold still, I can think for a minute and decide what I want to do, and I might try to catch this gun, throw this stick, and then like punch that guy in the face. And those two games with Astrobot Rescue Mission, I think, kind of sold VR to me. Again, I really want to get PlayStation VR 2. Again, mostly just because I have a lot of games in the PlayStation ecosystem that would already work with it, and then I could plug it into my PC with that adapter if I ever wanted to one day. So that would probably be the VR route that I took. But yeah, I think those are probably the four. And Tabletop Simulator last night has just got me like, oh my gosh, like what is this world and why did I buy so much cardboard? But at the same time, I don't regret any of it. I love all the games I have behind me on the screen, and I have some other games that will be delivering later this year that I'm very excited about. Arcs Included, which we played last night digitally. I'm very excited to play that one in person too, and look someone in the eyes while I destroy and raid all of their stuff. So, I don't know. Anyways, Devin, I just chatted a whole bunch, and I probably stole all the good ones.
I have one thing that's very specific to me.
Cool.
That I would say is a paradigm shifting gaming experience for me. And the last word there is what it's all about, is the experience. When we've gone and played board games at your house, we haven't sat down on rock hard chairs with no snacks in the dark. We've had a table light, which enhances the experience so much.
It does.
A game pad, so it's easier to grab the cards off of the table. We have snacks. You have friends. You could turn something. I could have shown up. We could have had no friends, no snacks, no light, and I could have gone, yeah, board games, that was kind of lame. Not really for me.
Yeah.
And I translate this into my obsession with altering every setting in every video game I ever play.
That's a really good analogy. I love that.
That people get a really bad opinion of video games because they don't know what the game can offer them because they play it stock.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you go into a Resident Evil game, it has a ton of input lag, and they want it to be there. They want it to be difficult, but there are dead zone settings, graphical settings. I mean, there's even audio settings that make the game more immersive. And if you fine-tune them, you can make a Resident Evil game feel much more closely related to Call of Duty, instead of feeling so foreign and difficult. And so my paradigm shift would be that I cannot start a game without changing every setting and understanding what each one does so that I can share that with friends and go, you will enjoy this as well, so much more than the average player that plays this game because you ticked a couple boxes or you moved a slider to all the way to the left. That's my paradigm shift. That's
a great one. I love that. And you are kind of the expert at that. We've had a lot of games that we've played where you're, one of us, either me or one of our cousins or somebody, is complaining in the voice chat, like, I can't aim very well, or I can't do this, or blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you need to change the setting. You need to adjust your dead zone or your field of view or whatever. And it does. It makes a huge difference. And just like you said, I think people have a bad experience with video games because they go in playing stock. I definitely think that applies for board games too, where people get invited to some game night to play something dumb like, I don't know, Secret Hitler or Cards Against Humanity, or they'll have like a bad host that like is just there to, I don't know, crush them or something. And so they have a bad experience with games and they're like, yeah, games not for me. But man, there is such like a vast variety of board games nowadays. There is literally hundreds of games for anyone. The saying usually is there's a game for anyone, but nowadays there are literally hundreds of games for anyone. So yeah, make sure that you play with good people. I think a board game mat that you put on the table really does amplify the experience. They're not very expensive. You can get them for $30 on Amazon. I have a bad chandelier over my table, so I do have a lamp that I bring down that helps everyone to actually be able to see their pieces. So yeah, play in good lighting, play with nice people that just want to have fun, and you'll have a much better experience. And then make sure to message Devin online if you're struggling with a video game, and he'll fine tune your settings for you. There you go. All 4 million people that heard that are gonna message you now, Devin. So
lovely.
Yeah.
No, cool. I love settings. I get confused by them still. I look at them and I go, what did that mean exactly? And I have to read it in slow motion. And I'm like, okay, I think I understand. And even if I don't, I'll change a setting, go back into the game, play for 30 seconds, change it back and see if I can feel the difference. And
yeah,
I should be making videos on that because most people don't do that.
Yeah, that's true. Most people don't. And I feel like they're, like you said, they're yeah, there's a lot of settings and it's hard to understand them all. I feel like they're adding like a ton of new ones. Like, I can't even think of the one I'm thinking of, but it's like the speed that the cursor moves from the dead zone. Yeah, I don't even know. There are so
stick
many.
Acceleration.
Yeah, that's the one, acceleration.
Yeah. I came across a weird one in Borderlands 3. It was called Axial Dead Zone. It was how much left and right cancels out your up and down movement.
I don't even know what that means.
On an analog. So I sat there and tested it and turned it all the way off, and it was so much better.
Oh, okay. So just off on that one. Interesting. And I feel like they add a bunch of those analog settings too, just in case. Like your stick has stick drift, so that you can bump the dead zones up a bit and maybe avoid some of that drift. Which makes me really excited for the day when, and I hope this happens like next console generation with PlayStation 6 and Switch 2 or something. All analog sticks need to have Hall sensors, analogs. So they're magnet kind of sensors instead of like a mechanical sensor that can become drifty and broken. Because with a magnet sensor, you're just you avoid that problem. So I hope that they fix that, because that is one of the most annoying things that exists. And I personally think they haven't done it to this point because they like selling me a bunch of extra controllers. That's just the conspiracy theory of the moment. But once they fix that, then yeah, really honing in on your settings and like, yeah, I can turn this like drift thing all the way off and this thing all the way off. Yeah, that'll be really nice. Cool. Well, I think that was a great closing segment, Devin. Mine were all dumb compared to yours. Yours was like very thoughtful. So, I really liked that. That was a good one. Devin is the settings master for sure. Well, that is going to do it for episode 15 of the Super Game Brothers podcast.
Crazy.
Make sure to like the podcast on podcast services. That helps us a ton. If you can. I don't know if it's a thumbs up or like a positive review that you can leave on Spotify and Amazon. Not Amazon. I think we are on Amazon actually, and on Apple podcast services. Wherever you listen, give us a thumbs up. That helps a lot. Make sure to join our monthly giveaway. We're giving away a bundle of board games or a gift card, whatever you would like if you win. Make sure to join that. That ends at the end of July. And make sure to check out the rest of the content we have going up on my board game channel. We'll have the playthrough of Arcs up. Should be up now when you're hearing this. I'm going through every game in my board game collection letter by letter, and I think I'm up through L or M at this point. And I'm breaking them into like my favorites category, games that are going to be delivering soon, games I'm thinking of getting rid of, and games I haven't played yet. So you can shame me for my giant shelf of shame, as the games I haven't played yet category is usually a pretty big one in those videos. And then on our Super Game Brothers channel, we've got this weekly podcast that goes up, as well as Devin streams there every day, as well as on Twitch and on Twitter. He's the multi-streamer of the year. Gonna win some award for sure. Yeah, so check out all the stuff. Really appreciate you listening. Couldn't do it without you. Make sure to check out patreon.com/supergamebrothers if you want early stuff, extra perks, or just to follow it for free. You can do that too. So that's going to do it for today. Devin, have a good one. I hope that I hope you're able to sleep tonight, get back kind of to a regular schedule, because that probably is hard to break when you've been sick and you're sleeping like a million hours, waking up at 2 p.m. Then you're like, okay, I'm never going to sleep again. And then it's 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah. Hard pattern, but alrighty, man. Well, thanks for being here with me, and we'll see you on the next one. And audience listeners, we will see you on the next one too. So until then, bye-bye.